One of the top stories this hour, you're still expected to pay for your e-tolls, and that's for now. The Gauteng provincial government has announced a delay in ending the unpopular toll fees. Now, that system was meant to be scrapped at the end of last year. We've got Vuyo Mhaga, who is the spokesperson for the Gauteng Premier's office, and he joins us this afternoon via Zoom. Thank you for joining us once again, Vuyo. And maybe before we get into the details of the system, maybe let our viewers know about the reason for the delay to what we thought was going to be coming to an end at the end of last year.
Well, thank you very much for having me this afternoon, and good afternoon to you and your viewers. I think one of the major issues is to really finalize some of the MOU. As you'll appreciate that the issues of the maintenance, as pronounced by the minister, was supposed to fall within Gauteng. Now, you need to have an instrument that must govern that. As you'll appreciate, those are national roads. You've got N1, you've got N3, you've got N4, where these countries, those roads naturally belong to the national government, not to the provincial government. Now, you need to have an instrument. Why would you use the provincial funds basically to maintain the national roads? That's one aspect. The other aspect is really about the duration of the 30% that we have agreed that we must pay. Now, we need to finalize what are the acceptable time frames that we must then pay over this 30%. As you'll appreciate, it cannot necessarily be once off, but it must be over a period of time. Those final details are being dealt with. Also, the repurposing of those countries, we have proposed as Gauteng that we need to use them to reinforce our work in terms of the law enforcement, that they must augment the work that is being done in the province to fight crime. So those are the issues really that we are not really far off from each other. And we are actually appreciative that sometime early this year we'll be able to conclude the MOU, therefore gazette the matter. Then after it has been gazetted 14 days later, then we'll be able to officially scrap the tolls as we understand them.
You say early next year. Can our viewers safely assume perhaps within early this year, excuse me, yes, the first quarter of 2023, my apologies, still getting used to the new year. Can our viewers expect that it would be within the first quarter of this year, or perhaps pushing it towards the mid of the year? What do you anticipate? Because these three issues that you've just highlighted to us are three very important ones indeed.
I think sometime this quarter, because the team has been working very hard. The technical team, the DGs in the provincial government, the DG in transport, as well as the team in the national treasury. So the team has been really hard at work, and the political team that is consisting of the Premier, the two ministers, transport and treasury, all of them, and everyone is committed to make sure that we deal with this aspect. So there's in terms of the political will, it has been there, the support is there. Now it's basically the technical aspect of it, which I believe sometime this first quarter we'll be able to conclude the matter.
One of the first issues that you say you're ironing out is the issue of maintenance and the fact that these are national roads, but that responsibility is now looking like it will fall onto the province. Should it be the situation where the province has got the major responsibility of maintenance, where will that money come from? I spoke to the MEC for Transport a little while back last year, and he indicated that there are going to be new revenue streams that are going to be developed within the province should the maintenance fall on Gauteng. Is that still the conversation, or are the residents of the province going to be bearing somewhat of the brunt?
Well, there will be a couple of hybrid revenue streams. If you look at the outlayer in terms of what we call conventional plazas, because really those roads are used to drive the economy of South Africa, not only South Africa, actually Southern Africa. So the idea is that can't we then use some aspect to increase in terms of the marketing? You can use a lot of marketing revenue around those partner areas, maybe some of the license renewals. So there are a lot of revenue streams that the Gauteng government is throwing around. But those revenue streams will obviously have a conversation with the people of Gauteng to make sure that they make their own input, because we really don't want to go ahead of the residents of Gauteng and then finalize some of these proposals without their input. So we'll be going out to make sure that to say this is what is our thinking, what more actually are you thinking, but what is of no point of agreement that we must not touch is the money that must go to education, is the money that must go to health. Those ones, those social aspects remain intact. some of the money that comes from the national government, maybe some of it will have to use it towards this particular grant. Hence, we are interested in terms of the time, how long will this 30% that we are supposed to pay will basically take. So that whole conversation is part of the conversation that we are busy with.
And finally, and very briefly, if you could, Vuyo, how much in numbers is that 30% that we're talking about? And when you talk about term loans, what period are you negotiating in terms of months or years?
So that's a conversation that we're having in terms of the period. Of course, initially, I think we're looking around 10, but that is a conversation that we must have with the treasurer and all that. So the money that we had is about 30% of that 42.5 billion. So I think it's roughly just above 12 billion that is supposed to be paid by Gauteng government.
Thank you very much for that update. That is Vuyo Mhaga, who is the spokesperson for the Gauteng Premier's office, joining us this afternoon to give us an update around the delays of the scrapping of the e-toll system, saying there should be some finality within the first quarter of this year.